to another Linux Gamecast Weekly, the show that covers the latest Linux gaming news, reviews, how-tos, and most importantly, whatever the hell else we come up with. Yes, this is the big 200, but don't let that confuse you, because this week, Twitch plans to nuke Viewbotters from orbit, but only after they finish suing software creators and the Steam Summer Sale gets a date. That's right, with your wallet.
DELL doubles down. The alpha is here to stay. Too bad no one's buying it. And how much do the Mountain Blade folks love their modders? Probably a little too much.
Steam goes back to betas, Valve time finally caught up to the runtime, and Fudzilla gives us some zen. Believe it or not, AMD's new CPUs finally get some proper specs.
I'm Vince Stone here at LGC Actual, as always, switching this nightmare fuel all under Linux, streaming under Linux, doing this, proving that it can be done for the Linux gaming community. Joining me for the 200th time-ish?
Something like that. Like 196, I think.
Close enough to where it makes no difference. Massus Fang from the Canadian.
Rounding errors, woo!
And speaking of rounding errors,
about 20 times less.
Pedro Mark 6.
Hello.
You might remember him back when he was still human. All the way from Space Portugal.
That was a long time ago.
And joining us every week, Chatroom Dynamic, helping us form live that special bit known as Cocaine Voltron. Before we get started, we do like to see what's going on in each other's life organs. I'm just going to throw this down. AT&T, you can eat a glorious bag of phallus.
And then the stream does.
Yep, Dynafire. Seriously, I've actually I put my order in for Charter Business Cable. So that should be coming this Thursday. What's up, J-Baby?
Well, I got 2 weeks until my contract ends with my current place. Still looking for work, trying to figure out what I'm going to do in the interim. And yeah, that means resurrecting my old lab server. So getting all that stuff up and running has been interesting.
And for me, well, I've been fighting myself very, very, very hard not to buy that Asus 219 100 hertz refresh rate IPS curved display monitor that I saw on Amazon the other day, because it's like, I want it really bad.
I love idiotic aspect ratios. They make me so hard.
It's got G-Sync too. It's got all the bells and whistles, and I'm like, yeah, give it to me. I want it, but it's like 1,000
Ladies and
British
gentlemen,
pounds.
you have that recorded now. Make of that what you will.
Well, something that is a bit stiff every week, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, is the horse, because we do beat it.
Yes, we do. And you know, the horse is ready to take out some revenge on that wallet of yours. It's the Steam
Linux
updates.
200 episodes, ladies and gentlemen. We're totally
First time
we
we ever
learned
done
nothing. I was trying to compensate for the delay, and well, balls to that. Steam Client Beta, June 16th. Yep, there's a new beta coming around. If you were paying attention last week, they introduced, they basically merged all the betas to the stable.
I love this code word right here. Improved compatibility with newer Linux. Nightmare fuel called 1604.
Yes, that was like the big thing for Linux. It was the only thing for Linux too, so winning by default, I guess. They finally updated the runtime, which I assume is to bring it to 1604 compliance, which is good because it gets rid of most people's issues with Mesa. Say if you're running the Mesa drivers with like an Intel or an AMD GPU, you will have issues launching Steam out of the box because it just won't launch. It will spit out some SW-RAST errors, and you just have to nope a couple of the runtime libraries or run that script that Solus OS released. They called it Steam integration or something. And they also introduced a bunch of new stuff for the Mistress. If you have an aerial control of your own, you have
the interesting thing is like Pedro said, the activators, which actually lets you create contexts and reactions for stuff like double taps or more complicated combinations of key presses. That's going to be really interesting to see. Like, I don't like. My first thought is something like Dark Souls, right? If you have like a bunch of macroed commands for various buttons or various combinations of buttons, or just any other game, really. I think the community is going to go a little wild with that. We're going to get some interesting things.
Yeah, and one little note, they did the beta the very next day, yesterday, as the case may be. They did release some fixes related to the Steam controller issues, because some of the activators with some specific games, pro tip, the ones that were not using SDL2, were having issues, as in the activators just wouldn't work, or if you say you used one of the activator options, then it would just get stuck on a loop and you would be doing that over and over again. They fixed those with the latest beta, so if you're having issues with that, just make sure your Steam client is up to date.
Seems all right, but we have a sale going on, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. Sale! Please excuse the hipster, unshaven, balding hipster. But this did come out as it's normally leaked every year via PayPal. I mean, this is just a thing.
I really do love how it boils down to prepare your anus.
That is when we're going to be getting this year's Steam sale, so not too far away. Lads, are we excited to have really good prices on all the games that we've already bought?
Yeah, that's the thing. Because for me, I don't know right now. Unless some major title drop for the Linuxes and we don't get review keys, there really isn't much going on for this sale. Unless
that's sort of been the case for most Steam sales after the first couple, when you get all the games you actually wanted for dirt cheap. You're not going to buy them again, right? And this just happens year in and year out until eventually the summer sale comes on and you're like, hey, all these games I already own are on sale that I got on sale last year.
Yeah, and Maddie actually brings up a good point. There will be no flash sales, no dailies, and no community choices. So if you're looking to say, the usual business with Steam sales is wait for a flash sale, wait for a community choice, wait for one of the special dailies, so it gets a really good discount. But that's not going to happen. So if you have something on your wish list that you've been waiting for, you can pretty much get it anytime you want.
And, I'm going to be perfectly honest. The good thing about a summer sale, it's going to benefit everyone that watches the show, because something goes really stupid, we'll always pick up a couple extra copies and put it in a giveaway for billions of years ago in the future.
Or go back and go look at some CHAIRQUISITIONs for games you're interested in, right, and see if we gave them a good score on our YouTube channel.
Dude, you're getting a DELL.
Oh, yes. So you always love the very educated Linux users at PC World who definitely know what's what and don't mix up facts.
They're on it, man.
Or get specifics wrong. But anyways, the Steam, the Dell Steam Machine, the Alienware Alpha, the whatever the hell you want to call it, apparently Dell is still keeping them around, and they're updating them. The latest version has a Skylake i7 or i5, and it's unclear based on the article, but it's either a 960 or a 960M. Given the onboard GPU of the last Alpha / Steam Machine, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a 960M integrated onto the Mobo, but you don't know. One thing they are mentioning is apparently they're going to be selling a graphical amplifier, whatever the hell that actually means.
It's one of those Thunderbolt external GPU connector. I have no idea.
That was the only thing that came to mind, because you can push some decent speed over USB 3.0. I wouldn't want to stick a GPU on there though.
5 gigabits per second.
Yeah, maybe you can get away with that, with the latest rev of Thunderbolt, but
Thunderbolt.
Yeah, like I said, it's kind of sketchy when you hear a peripheral graphics amplifier. It's like that shitty random DIMM that came.
I don't know. One of the things they were talking about in this article from PC World, all this business is in our show notes. They did say, and I quote, "Vulkan will speed up the transition of SteamOS to AAA content."
I added a note about that because that bugs me.
Well, my little note about that, and with those Vulkan titles that you're talking about, that it's going to speed up, don't expect to see them until, 8 to 14 months from now, because it there's no Vulkan button.
It's true. I mean, game engines take a while to implement this. Vulkan is fairly low level, so it's going to take a lot of work from the outset. Just look at Ryan C. Gordon and Flibbage on Twitter talking about Vulkan whenever it comes up, and they're always talking about how difficult it is. But the thing about Vulkan in the article that really bugs me is they mention it as this thing that's like, oh, right, yeah, Vulkan makes porting games from DirectX 12 super easy because now it'll work on Linux. But you're missing the point, Brad. The whole point is I don't need to write a DX12 renderer because my Vulkan renderer will work on Windows and Android and Mac and Linux and SteamOS.
Wait. No, there's something that people do miss. DX12, if you write it in Vulkan, it'll work on Windows 10. And guess what? It'll also work on Windows 7.
Yeah, that's the big thing. It's those versions of Windows that Microsoft is actively trying not to,
or 8 for that matter. There's still a decent install base of Windows 8 that doesn't have access to the DX12s.
The thing with Vulkan is Vulkan doesn't really have the Microsoft marketing budget behind it. And Jordan actually showed up in the show notes. No, it's just every GPU manufacturer and about every other development studio. And Google, which is a fair point, it is, but none of them can be asked to market it properly. Why?
It's not a matter of marketing, though. It's a matter of education. The only reason devs are even gravitating to DirectX 12 is because they've had DirectX shoved down their throats since they've basically learned how to program in university.
Because Microsoft...
I think that is going to be a bit of a game changer because DX12 resembles something more. I mean, it's very verbose. I mean, you're talking like something like Glide, and it's like, whoa, this is complicated. Do I want to learn this? Then I can run it on Windows Phone. I mean, wait, I'm sorry, that's not a thing anymore. I can run it on the Xbox and Windows, or if I take the time and do the Vulkan, I can just run it on everything.
Yeah.
But my whole point is that spreading this misinformation about Vulkan just being some easy way to get DirectX 12 games working on other operating systems is totally the wrong way to go about that. And if you spread that information, you are doing a disservice to the tech industry, period. Yeah. But, speaking of people who embrace Vulkan and cross-platform tools.
Oh, yeah. Oculus denies seeking exclusivity for Serious Sam. Crow Team responds. This has kind of went over a couple of variants during the week. The original one was... Crow Team basically said, Facebook offered us, and I quote, a shit ton of money to make Serious Sam VR an exclusive for the Oculus Rift because, Facebook, like, oh, we didn't mean to do that. And, Facebook came out, doing damage control of that. And, Crow Team kind of backed off, not totally, but they didn't deny anything. They're like, maybe they offered us a little bit of coin. Unfortunately, Jordan and Pedro, what do you think about this? I believe this came to the surprise of no one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so my take on it is, if you want to play the speculation game, with Oculus attempting to essentially buy the goodwill of developers by saying, hey, if you make it a time exclusive for the Oculus Store, we'll give you a shit ton of money, quote unquote. It's really they've outright realized, yes, with the HTC Vive is the superior product, hands down. And the only way they're going to start getting market share is if they put themselves in a better position from the software situation, because people will still gravitate to inferior systems if the software they want to use is on there. Just look at Macintosh.
But Pedro, come on. I mean, what Facebook is doing, I mean, Lucky's not in charge of this. Lucky, honestly, Lucky Palmer, if he was still in charge of this, I honestly believe he'd be like, nope. Because
Lucky cashed out because of
he cashed out. Like I was saying, he doesn't have a lot of say so anymore. I genuinely believe that. But what I want to ask you, Pedro, is I mean, it's like Facebook. I mean, it's the Facebook Rift. Let's just be honest with ourselves. It's like they're trying to create the console wars of Xbox and PlayStation on the PC. Yeah. And we're not having that, are we?
Yeah, you see, exclusives are the only way that the console wars are still a thing. And believe me when I say they are still a thing. If you go to a random YouTube video about the PS4 and the YouTuber in charge of that video makes the mistake of even mentioning the Xbox One, you'll get a full-blown console war going on in the comments.
New Xspock Xspock. I like it. Xbox S that's coming out in a few months.
The X Bones?
Oh.
Yes. It will have the power supply internally like the PS4 did at launch 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And no mandatory Kinect that eats up a third of the processing power.
It doesn't have that, and admittedly, the X Bones is actually smaller than the PS4, so good on Microsoft for that. But yeah, all this bitching that we get from the mainstream media about Linux being fragmented, and here it is, Facebook trying to fragment VR in the gaming space before it even takes off. That's the kind of sensible decision making you can expect from Facebook as they start to branch out into more and more platforms. Yeah, good, isn't it?
But there's one company that actually does support cross-platform endeavors and will give you money no matter what you're doing, even if it's just jerking yourself off. Yes. Rocket League.
Yeah, so hot on the heels of our previous story, Valve are funding VR projects exclusively free with prepaid Steam revenue. You might be asking, what the hell's prepaid Steam revenue? Well, we don't really know. This all comes from an email that the PC Games End, don't worry, there'll be a link in the show notes. They got in touch with Gabe Newell.
Polo Diablo 187, if that is his real name.
Yeah. So he got in touch with Gabe Newell, and Gabe Newell actually replied and said, "We don't think exclusives are a good idea for customers or developers." And they're not. They're really not. Valve, for all the shit that they, albeit deservedly, get, are one of the very few publishers / store owners who realize just how bad exclusives are for the consumers and the developers, because the only people that benefit from exclusives are publishers and platform owners like Sony and Microsoft, the two big console
or
players.
Valve with their Steam machines. I find that statement a little ironic, but
Yeah, we'll talk about the Steam machines in a few years when they're actually, when people actually start realizing exactly what the Steam machines were going for.
This podcast to last another 2 years before it implodes. Good luck with that.
Yeah, fair point on that. But yeah, the thing is, Gabe Newell said, no, we don't want exclusives. We are willing to help people make their VR games. So long as they release it on Steam, they can release it wherever else they want.
Man. I'm kind of curious about the wording in this. Prepaid Steam revenue sounds a lot like a payday loan.
It kind of does. When I read it, I assumed it just meant we'll front you the money and then we'll take it back out of your game's revenue.
Yeah, and that seems to be the general consensus of what most people are assuming it to be, because Gabe Newell didn't really explain that.
Now, arguably, that is a better system than Facebook going, here's all this money. We own you.
Yeah, no, it's the way Oculus
we
is
own you
about
temporarily. We have a timed exclusivity deal on your balls.
Well, depending on how much the development house needs.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Well, Jim, it's not dead.
It's not dead, but it's also not deprecated. This is Nuclear Dawn version 7.2. They released a new update June 15th, and they have a few releases. The MOTD panels that used to use the Steam HTML API thing, as it were, instead of using a dedicated Chromium browser, now it actually uses the embedded Chromium browser that Steam offers, the CEF. So that's good, because it was actually causing issues. What?
Go on. I was going to say what you were saying. Go on.
Yeah, no, it actually causes issues with Mac and Linux because, they probably weren't including the correct version of Chromium. And they fixed a bunch of security issues and a couple of other things. And I got this because I have Nuclear Dawn in my Steam library. And it's like, how many people are actually playing this game? Oh,
empty. And only empty.
Yeah, no, MD actually plays Nuclear Throne. That one is.
Right. I get those two confused.
Yeah. So currently there are 44 players, and the 30-day average is 19.10 people.
I mean,
This game is dead.
to the devs' credit, at least they're not fucking abandoning the game, right? They're still putting work out on it.
That is very good. That is a very good point. Yes, but
we should applaud that on principle.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been doing it for other devs. Why not the Nuclear Dawn guys? So what if no one's playing their game? You should be playing their game because they're committed to supporting it.
Fair enough. All right.
Okay. Well, enough with the permissions and back to the transmissions.
Yeah, we talked about this back when Herr Hartley was on. This is a sort of guide-in game, fan-created fan game for the Half-Life series that takes place. It's sort of like a riff on Puzzle or on like the Portal games or Half-Life 2 episode games where you had the gravity gun. You gotta solve problems and go through the story and whatnot. It still bothers me how the gravity gun looks like a 0-point module, but that's
It
just
does, doesn't it? Yeah.
MGM's gonna sue
Hey,
somebody.
look, it's a Frenchie. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, but it has it has a Steam page now. You used to go to ModDB to download this, so now you can just click on it. It made it through the green light process, and check it out. These guys did put a lot of work into it, and it's cheap as free. So that's the thing.
It's on Steam and it launches right out of the box. I admittedly haven't played it. I just tried it to see if it was short, and it did. I actually managed to get in game, but it's like, all right, I'll get to it later, and I never.
Which is our CHAIRQUISITION section in a nutshell, really.
All right, chmod plus X. Star.exe. Right. Platformer roguelike game set inside the very computer you once had, Moto. A rogue emoticon is about to be replaced when a new upgrade is downloaded, and as a result...
Yeah, I rogue emoticon, I just throw that into the dev null file because...
How far would you go for freedom? Freedom!
To dev null.
Yeah, this is interesting. Little platformer game with a .exe. I mean, that's what it's called, even though the main protagonist is a ASCII penguin. It's like an old man who just turned 98.
It's like Carmageddon, right? They do penguins.
It's $5.99. That's a thing. It requires Kombucha, and yeah. You can get the OST, apparently has a soundtrack. Oh, and there's DLC for it as well.
I think that's just the OST. That's if you...
Yeah, it's just the original soundtrack on the DLC. Yeah.
Okay, let's pretend that never happened. All right, what's up?
All right. So,
let's explore some male sexuality, shall we?
Let's leave it on the carousel just so you can sort of see what's going on there.
Okay.
you audio listeners are not getting the full story. You should check this out. This is what the fuck is this game called? Radiator 2. We had actually talked about this. This is a game where amongst amongst other things you can have sex with your car.
Yes,
it is. The philosophy behind these games are normally you just fade away with sex scenes. This is an actual interactive sex scene, though it's fairly PG-13. No, there's no full frontal nudity, unfortunately. Although there is a lovely little bit in the game's Q&A that says, "Will playing this game turn me gay?" To which they respond, "Yes," and I'm sold.
This is actually 3 games in one. I can't remember the name of the guy that made this, but he's made 3 games, which was Radiator, which was the one that you get to have sex with your car. It was
we all played that one, didn't we? We were like, what?
Yes. There was Hurt Me Plenty, which was a game where you had to spank a very good-looking gentleman, and if you didn't stop when he asked you to stop, the game would immediately lock you out of playing it. Amazing. And there was also Succulent, which is a game where you see that very same gentleman sucking on an ice lolly, and just you control the ice lolly, and you can do some very sexy movements with it.
So I would assert that we are totally not the target market for this sort of game.
Well, maybe not. I mean,
Speak for
my
yourself,
favorite thing,
man.
like the deviant side of me, is like, I really hope some, like massively homophobic people are on Steam, like, oh my god, yeah, and it flips them the hell out because.
If we ever throw chairs to this, we gotta get someone heterosexually challenged on to provide proper context.
Kudos to
considering-
Rohit in chat realm. It's Robert Yang. He's the creator of these games.
Robert
Awesome.
Yang. All right, well, give him a follow on Twitter if he has a Twitter. It's pretty good. He made a game where you have sex with your car. That's pretty fucking awesome. Yep. Coming up next, it's all sorts of hardware. We're bitching about hardware for 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Come and listen. Come and watch.
For the
It's
200
mildly
time.
related to Linux. Mildly. Coming down with those Monday blues, because chances are you're probably watching this on a Monday. So, keep your panties on. The workday will be over soon. You'll be able to get home. Yeah, you'll be able to get home and play your games, and say you want to kick some shackles over to the fine folks who every single Saturday night stay up very, very late and give you the good old gaming news.
every single Saturday for the past 200 Saturdays. Because we have a very awkward transition to our Patreon segment where we tell you to give us money, and you can do that by heading on over to LinuxGameCast.com/support the shows, and it's brilliant. We got some Amazon links that'll let you support us without actually giving us any money, because if you click on it and then make your purchases via Amazon, we get a little bit of a cut, and we're miserable about it because we don't even use it ourselves. It's kind of terrible. We also have some PayPal buttons, which Marvin JW decided to give us a lovely one-time donation through, so good on him for that. We also have our Patreon, patreon.com/LinuxGameCast, where we prefer you support us because it consolidates it and acts as a messaging platform, and if you have complaints or if you don't like a show, you can send us hate mail over that, and we have no choice.
The thing that will cause you pain, because, we're at 152 Wet Stinky Caches an episode, 84 Patreons, but if we get to that 200 mark, we get to make the man you were just listening to, quote unquote, air quote, man. Jordan, he genuinely hates you.
I'm a man.
Co-op. Oh, man.
He's a manly man.
Force him to beat it, and it's going to be added to these other things. Wait, Finn, I'm looking at your Patreon page right now, and I don't see this trying again thing. That's why? Why is that, Jordan? Why don't they see it?
Well, because I was blocking out that session. Thanks a lot for undoing all that therapy, you son of a bitch. But if you sign up for our Patreon, and just at any level, really just 5 cents a show. If you want show notes, you can bump that up to $2.50. If you just want to give us $1 because you're awesome, that's great too. But any backer gets early access by a week to our recorded gameplay videos. They're fun, they're raunchy, and they involve a lot of glitches.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
but you know who actually did contribute? Chris Fisher from the Linux Action Show upped his donation, so good on him for that.
Yeah, man,
Chris,
it was kind of awesome. I mean, not to be confused with Doctor Who, not Jim the Fish, Chris the Fish. He actually went to 666, which is Chicago Kicks Ass, our original Patreon. This is beautiful for our 200th episode, because our first Patreon was empty. The leprechaun, Mr. T, and he was like,
we need a donor level specifically for him.
He said, if you create 666 Chicago Kicks Ass as a Patreon goal, I will become your first Patreon. And he did, true to his word, and ever since, Bob's been our uncle. It's been awesome. But yeah, if you want to drop us a birthday gift, LinuxGameCast.com, support the show.
Well, I mean, one-time PayPal? 8 weeks, it'll be a birthday gift, but let's kick on over to the news. And we're always talking about drivers, and this week is no exception. NVIDIA 367.27 is out. And really, we talked about some driver stuff last week, and this, or the week before, I don't quite remember because I do a lot of drugs and that addles my brain. But this is basically just taking that beta branch and merging it into the the mainline driver. So this adds the 1070, 1080 support and a few other nice little G-Sync features, and maybe some VDPAU stuff for H.265. into the mainline driver. If you are following the beta, there's not really any point in installing this because you already have all these features. But if you're getting a 1070 or 1080, you might want to check this out.
Yes, and just a teeny tiny correction to what Jordan said. It's not the long-lived branch. This is a new short-lived branch. NVIDIA, they're not exactly open when it comes to their development.
They're not open. Period. Heyo, middle fingers.
Well,
Hashtag Linus Torvalds.
They do open source the headers. Every now and again, we'll see a post by Mr. Aaron Plattner on G Plus saying, "Look, there's a bunch of headers available. They're all open. Just nouveau guys, have fun." And good on them for that, I suppose. But they could do a bit more, maybe.
Everyone can do a little bit more with open source, but there are some clear disadvantages with closed source software, including the fact that you don't really know what you're getting, despite what the label says on the box. Isn't that right, then?
Asus and MSI accused of sending modified cards to the press as opposed to the unmodified cards. Yeah, this actually happened. All right, they clocked them a bit higher. The review sample was 1709.
1.5%.
Right. I mean, little as makes no difference. I mean, meh, big deal. The most, genuinely no, hang on. This is for the, let's see, the Strix and the Gaming X.
The Twin Frozer.
Yeah, Twin Frozer.
I do, full disclosure, have a 980 Twin Frozer from MSI.
As do I.
Yeah, they do the same thing for AMD cards. The big takeaway from this was you have to install like a 90 meg binary blob bullshit driver on Windows in order to enable cool bits.
Yep.
Wow. Windows users.
In 15 years after the class action suit settles, you too can get your $2 check from NVIDIA for fucking performance review copies.
This really shouldn't surprise anyone. I mean, another shocking news, Sky reportedly still blue, but it's one of the things they mentioned. It's like the one surprising thing about this is that some of the AIV partners are not doing this, namely Gigabyte. Apparently, Gigabyte has not been doing this with their versions of the SKUs.
So they're GGG, good guy Gigabyte?
I don't know. I mean, one of the biggest things I think is they were like, oh, well, you unlock the voltage, which would allow theoretically for, pushing more power through. That was not able to be unlocked. That could result in higher overclocking benchmarks, theoretically.
But then again, most of these GPUs are stuck with that extra 8-pin PCIe power connector, so you only get like 75 extra watts out of it. So even if you could unlock the voltage, chances are you'd probably run yourself into a voltage that you could not.
The trick is, while the power supply is on, you stick some paper clips into those 9-volt rails. LGC cares.
Oh, yeah.
But speaking of getting hot.
Yes, let's get totally hot because Fudzilla has some news for us. Apparently,
I'm sorry, Pedro. It's pronounced Fojira.
Whatever. Apparently, they got some exclusive news when it comes to AMD's new Zen architecture. They call it the Naples. It has
Pedro,
32
I just got to
cores.
stop you right here on this little slide. It totally new, like gag me with a spoon new.
No. Okay. That slide is actually pretty old. Because you can see there it says availability in 2016, and we know at this point that they're going to be delayed to Q1 2017 at the very least.
Considering that black block text that says server chip with 64 threads arriving in 2017.
Yeah,
clearly there's a bit of
32 cores, 8 megs of L3 cache. Tell me about it, Pedro. I've never heard of what's Zen. Is it like an AMD part?
This is the new.
It's a new flavored Doritos.
The new architecture, as it were, for AMD processors. There will be both server variants and the regular old consumer versions, as you usually get. They have high bandwidth, low latency cache, which means that they're no longer sharing L2 cache. Now they just share L3 cache like your typical Intel processors do. They have a FinFET design. They've gone down to 14 nanometer FinFET design, which is kind of amazing from AMD. They've been stuck on that 28 or no, it wasn't 28. It was 32 nanometer. The old Vishera cores, like the one I have, the FX8370E. They're targeting, these new parts are going to be targeting the 35 watt TDP to a maximum of 180 watts. So that's all right. But yeah, like I mentioned, they're sharing instead of sharing L2, they're sharing L3. So that's the way that Intel's been doing. And apparently, if you take Intel's benchmarks cores into consideration, that's probably the way to do it. They have 128 lanes of PCIe. What?
Do what, Pedro?
Do what? What?
In the butt.
Yeah, they have 128 lanes of PCIe 3.0, which is, probably to support those quad-core crossfire configurations.
Oh, right. Like NVIDIA supports quad.
True that.
Well,
yeah, the new Pascal.
I'm sorry. When I need 4 cards more powerful than a Titan to play my Minecraft games, it's just unacceptable, man. I can't take it. Hey, what I want to know though is who the fuck edited this article? Because surely, spelled SHUR, someone's not doing their goddamn job.
Yeah, I have, this again. This comes from Fudzilla. I have no idea who actually edited this, but going back to it, they have 8 memory channels now, and welcome to 2010 there, AMD. Maybe at this point, we've, if you've been paying attention to Linux Gamecast Weekly, you know how much me and Ven have bitched over the AMD performance in certain games.
It's not like I bought an 8150 like Black Edition when it was like less than a year old and it wasn't cheap. No.
Yeah, and I got the FX8370E Vishera, which was like 200 euros at the time. Yeah, maybe just maybe.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Skylake i7.
No, well, what I was gonna say is I'd be curious. Because as we know, AMD is infamously not competing with NVIDIA on price. What this is actually going to go for, because we're hearing lots of stuff about 32 cores and what was it, 16 core CPUs.
I think we might need to readjust our perspective here, because AMD is like, we're not going to compete on price, but they came out with the AMD 480.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
the GPU
RX 480,
which at least under Windows currently, the scuttlebutt, it outperforms the 970
for $200
quite handily. So maybe they're going to have to retract and transmogrify some things. But something that we clearly do not do is bots. Artificial viewers, followers.
Well, look at the net stat on my server running all these IRC bots and tell me that again, Then
There's only 3 actual people in chat. Well, no, not really. No, Twitch has actually said a thing, man. Well, here's what they publicly said. They were like, we're aware that people use viewbotting and all that and chatbotting to artificially inflate all that. Now, we do have this thing at Linux Gamecast Weekly called the DBullshitotron 9000, and we handed that over to our scientist, and they ran it through said DBullshitotron 9000. And when they said, we're publicly aware of this, and we're going to start suing the creators of the bot software, and, it spit out the other end. The translation was, fuck, advertisers have caught on. And we're going to have to departner with these channels, even though we've known that they were using viewbots to use it to sell advertisements against their videos. Fuck. Gentlemen, am I wrong?
No, you're actually not, because one thing they mentioned in the article is like some people assume that having a higher number of viewers is putting them on the fast track to Twitch partnership or to becoming a hit on Twitch. It kind of is, because the more people you have, the more people will actually watch your stream. Because if someone, let's say I was a complete rando on the internet and I went to Twitch.
You are a complete rando on the internet.
Let me live my fantasy, Jordan. If you go to Twitch, or if I went to Twitch and I saw like a stream with 25,000 people watching, and I got another stream playing the exact same game with only like 3 viewers, guess which one I was going to watch? The one with the most viewers.
Well, I mean, there's something to be said about seeding community. I mean, even the originators of Reddit were like, oh yeah, we used to comment on things and submit our own stories. Here's the dice, though. They're going after, I think, the top 7 distributors of this software, and they're going to go all legal pants on them. The fallout from this is, I'm pretty sure everyone on, if they win that, they will have access to who bought it. At least at the very minimum, their email address for their PayPals or something like that. Then they're probably going to go a little bit scorched earth policy, Jordan. Maybe?
See, when you mentioned that, I'm like, well, obviously, I'd use a separate email if I'm going to be buying software that I wouldn't want to be traced back to me. But then I realized, as I was thinking that, the bar for intelligence is actually pretty low. I skirt just above that one,
right?
So maybe some of these people who are using Twitch bots sort of fall under this very, 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 very low bar. But I think it's time to remount it and reconsider our options, don't you? All right, so this is actually kind of neat. The Tailworlds, the company behind Mount and Blade Warbrand, really love their mods. I mean, if you look at the active mod list for Mount and Blade, there's quite a lot of them. There are Game of Thrones mods, there's Star Wars mods. It can change it to make it an entirely different game. And Tailworlds loves that because they realize, like a smart manufacturer of games, if you engage your community and have them create content for you, you still make money when new people go and buy the game. Look at DayZ. I mean, people bought Arma just to play the mod. People bought Warcraft 3 just to play Dota. And so Tailworlds has decided to be all sorts of awesome. And for Mount and Blade 2, they are outright releasing the source code. There is a direct quote from this article on PC Games, and don't know if this is 100% valid, but they say, we have made our own engine and we'll be releasing the entire engine to modders, including the source code of the game. Well, damn, son. That's good. It means that the already active modding community for Mount and Blade is going to get a lot lot because having access to the actual source code for the engine.
Pedro, is there a Linux version for the Mount and the Blade?
Yeah, there is.
There is for Mount and Blade Warband, but Mount and Blade 2 there actually isn't. They've only announced it for Windows, but assuming that the entire engine is going open source, well, I guess it won't be long.
Yes, indeed. Because as we saw with like Unreal 4, it's like, yeah, we don't have a Linux editor. 2 weeks later, they're like, yeah, we have a Linux editor.
It's like,
now.
Yeah, gotcha.
Community got that working. I can only imagine with like the actual support of the devs behind what kind of insanity will result from that. But I like playing single-threaded games with multi-threaded graphics APIs. Do you?
Yeah, let's do it. So this is Nova Renderer, created by Death Raid, if that is his real name, and he describes it as a mod to replace Minecraft Java OpenGL 2.1 renderer with a C++ OpenGL 4.5 renderer. That's a daunting task if I ever heard of one.
Well, to be honest with you, a less daunting task, because the original task, if I read all of his posts correctly on the Reddits, he's like, I'm going to do this in Vulkan. And then he looked at that and was like, I'm doing this in OpenGL.
That might be for naught, because we may see in the near future the DirectX 12 definitive edition of Minecraft brought to you by fine folks at Microsoft.
Yeah, but they're going to replace the entire Java thing with C# or .NET or whatever Microsoft wants to call it. But
basic.
Yeah, dude. Go ahead.
Objective-C.
Yeah, no, they're rewriting Minecraft in Visual Basic. It's going to be great.
Oh yeah, it's going to be amazing. They're going to trace all the IP addresses. But yeah, well, Vulkan, what Ven was talking about is like Vulkan would actually help with the CPU boundedness inherent to Minecraft, because
You mean
Minecraft
Java?
it's a very CPU bound game.
Well, I mean, the entire Minecraft game is single-threaded, though, so I'm not sure what kind... You need, like, some sort of bizarre-ass shim, where one thread will queue OpenGL instructions, which will then be submitted via, like, a C++ threaded API to Vulkan. I don't even know if that's
Jordan,
even possible.
we're going to call it hyper-threading.
You can actually...
Oh, man, it's going to take AMD, like, 10 years to catch up with that. It's going to be miserable.
You can actually get the source code for this right now. They do say it probably won't work for you, and chances are you're just gonna crash and burn. But
and I mean,
it's on
given that
GitHub.
it's the C++ renderer, I mean, there's going to be some portability issues.
They got a board on the Trello, so I mean, go check it out. Do the thing. But since we're on the engines,
Oh yes. Dark Forces 2, Jedi Knight. Someone has decided to go and reverse engineer the engine for this. At first I thought, wait, wasn't this already released when LucasArts went under and a bunch of their devs said fuck it and dumped the source code on the internet? No, they didn't.
Jedi Academy.
But still, it's good that someone's working on this. I like how Star Wars games are really finding a new, like really old Star Wars games are finding a new home on Linux. It makes me really, really happy because I can play them because I never got a chance to.
So is this like a proper Star Wars game, or is this like the like roguelike BS?
No, it's a Star Wars game. Like you get a lightsaber, you're a Jedi, you go around and do Jedi shit.
All right,
kill
all
shit
right,
with lightsabers. I mean, it's expanded universe, so it's completely non-canon anymore. But
I played Dark Forces 2. It came out in like 1999, 2000, 2001, around those times. It was, at first I only played the demo because I only had the demo. It was back in the 90s when demos were still a thing. And I loved that game.
Man, you could get a demo CD with a magazine, and that was the only reason you would buy magazines. But here's the thing. I love that these Star Wars games are coming to Linux. I just want a Linux version of Battlefront 2. I will straight up suck your dick for a Linux version of Battlefront 2.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, sit back and let's not knock those dicks out of Jordan's mouth, because the most popular request for a particular game has yet again been ignored. That's right.
Completely ignored.
Super Tux card.
Not completely ignored.
0.9.2 RC1 is released. New track, and new sounds.
Spooky ghosts.
You get spooky ghost following. We are talking about Super Tux card. I mean, it does look genuinely a billion times better than, let's just say, it did 4 years ago when we started the show. Happy 200th episode, LinuxGameCast. Here's the thing, though. I mean, it has absolutely been over a year since they first announced. And I'm like, okay, well, we're going to start working on the netcode for this, the multiplayer, LAN support, then WAN support. Okay, we're going to do this. A year later, Jordan, and guess what? Fuck and all has been made in the name of progress.
Yeah, well, I mean, so they do go in the article and they say they have some working LAN stuff. They even played a single WAN match, but it's still kind of spotty. I mean, writing netcode is hard. I mean, most game engines like Unity or hell, even Unity's netcode is a little spotty. Unreal was going to have some decent spotty, or is not spotty, decent netcode because it's the base for Unreal Tournament, right? You need to have fairly optimized netcode for this. And these are volunteers writing it from scratch. I don't blame them for the slow progress, but at least it's being worked on.
I don't know, Pedro. If I'm running a community-driven project, and as they said themselves in this article, where is this at? This is a supertuxcart.blogspot.de. Feed up in the house. Most requested feature, and like, that's the right about it.
Oh, Strider.
They at least acknowledge it is the most requested feature, but like Jordan mentioned, they managed to get a LAN thing going on, and they created a server from the GUI, which I suppose is a big thing if you're trying to make
they do say, they can already connect LAN clients without requiring online. They can do it without the GUI, compile a graphic standalone server. But, where? I mean, look, look, this is the closest we've ever gotten to Rocket League.
This is the OG Rocket League, man. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
but there's some other rockets you can use. Maybe in your browser.
Pew pew pew.
Yes. So, what does Untrack smell like? That's one thing I asked Google, and they couldn't give me a straight answer. Because I'm dumb. Yeah, this comes from our Linux_gaming. It used to be our favorite subreddit, not anymore. But yeah, this is an isometric mech shooter, which is very much sprite based, and you can see from the little GIF that they have embedded into the Reddit post there. They have a demo which you can actively download right now. They also have a video which you can watch about the demo, and they're taking like people signing up.
Tip. All right, we're 35, 30, 40, 52. Oh, all right.
Yeah, it takes them a bit, but yeah, they do have a little sign up list that you can enter your email for to get invited for the alphas.
By the way,
and
Rough Laser Gameplay, great band name.
Hot.
Just saying.
Totally. But yeah, it's a an arena mech shooter, at least from what I got from the demo. It's an arena mech shooter in
Is an arena mech shooter?
We're gonna build.
Okay. Well, folks, if you want to play this in Firefox, sorry, Brad, because WebKit is the new Internet Explorer. You got to play it.
Yeah, no, you need Chrome.
And so while Pedro is composing himself, let's maybe kick on over to the Chairquisition, where we will be throwing rusty chairs at a rusty trombone. Wait, what? All right, well, we're throwing chairs, not quite for the 200th time, but this is still part of the 200th episode. We are throwing chairs at On Rusty Trails from Black Pants Studio, one of the first game studios that actually gave us some keys. So we decided to return them some love on the day of our daughter's wedding. I mean, our 200th episode, whatever. It's built on the Scape engine, which is custom to them. You can pick it up for around 12 or 13 of your Flubarg, wet, stinky currencies, whatever. And what is it? You're Elvis. Your home is gone. Blast with this fast-paced platformer and instantly shift from rusty red to hairy blue. That sounds a bit kinky, but don't stick to one side or it will turn on you. That sounds doubly kinky. And it is triply kinky. The Chairquisition. One chair means that it's garbage. 2 chairs means that it's meh. 3 chairs means that it's good, and 4 chairs means that it's amazing. And our categories mix with the working, shiny sounds, controls, and fun. You've seen this before. You're going to see it again. Let's kick this off. Did On Rusty Trails make with the working then?
Over here on the Ubuntu, still running the 1404 LTS because, 1604 LTS, that's why. Using the 8150 octo-core powered overclock to just the 4 gigahertz, not really an overclock for that because it's the black edition, terribly racist, with a 980 MSI twin frozer and all that fun stuff displayed at 2160, but I did play this at 1080p like the common folk. First off, Black Pants Studios, creators of Tiny and Big, they have been making Linux native games before LinuxGameCast existed, and this genuinely shows. They were the first studio that I ever pinged when their first Tiny and Big, small little demo came out before they released the full game, like a year later, and I pinged them. I'm like, oh yeah, here's an internal build, play with it and do all that. A lot of loyalty to that. And, this was before we were the 9,000 kilo fucking gorilla and all that business. They know what they're doing under Linux. The performance, it shows. I mean, you don't run it with VSync. 126 FERPs. It doesn't matter if you're doing it 2160 or 1080. I mean, it's just going to hover around there. The only complaint is curse you for giving us this game like 3 weeks before it came out, you horrible people, because you nerfed my save. And I was kind of far in the game, but I really liked it a lot, and I'll tell you more about that in the fun section. So, I'll give 4 chairs.
Yeah, on the i7 6700K with the GTX 980 with 32 gigs of RAM. Yeah, no performance issues. I mean, this isn't the most graphically intense game out there, but, it hums along. So it gets 4 chairs.
Yeah, they noped everybody saves. It was like when was talking about is they sent me a key. Well, they sent Ven the first key, and then they sent me and Jordan the keys a bit later, but I was still like 2 or 3 chapters in. And when I first started playing it after the release, it's like, why am I starting from the beginning? Oh, right. Okay. All right. Fair enough. On the FX 8370E with the GTX 970 Strix and 16 gigs of RAM with 2 Samsung 850 EVOs and YOLO RAID and Fedora 23 64-bit. And it ran absolutely perfect. No issues whatsoever, so 4 chairs.
All right, that's 4 chairs mixed with the working. What's up with shiny and sounds, Ben?
Pretty easy. There's no mistaking that this is from the creators of Tiny and Big. I mean, wicked strange art style. And that's absolutely a good thing. You are Elvis, but little Elvis, why are you so small? Question mark. I mean, you probably want to feed little Elvis some fried peanut butter and banana sandwiches to make him a little bit bigger, because he gets
with the pill chaser
easily lost in the background. He's kind of color-coded, especially in the earlier levels, to what is in that background. So you're kind of playing on feel and all that and camera control. But we are talking about those backgrounds because they are beautiful. They are detailed, albeit slightly dark, a little bit raised, but they are neat. They're well done. Just nice. It does have sounds. You'll listen to the sounds. Pedro's like, it's got a nice thunk to it, which it does. I'm not going to argue that. But we were talking before we even went live with this. Why I have to play a platformer of any type, Jordan and Pedro need to rage and get sweaty palms and all that business. I need to zen the hell out because I can handily snap a controller in half if I'm not. So, like zen back, put on something, soothing like Slayer, which I normally do. So, shiny and sounds, shiny, perfect sounds, there. There's nothing amazing, but it's still 3 chairs, solid.
Yeah, the clunk that you get when you actually land on the platforms is, well, pretty good. Sorry, I got to right all that cocaine from my nose. I like the character design is very well done. I got about through the first chapter and a bit, and they're still dealing with the racism theme. So I want to mention that because they do a fantastic job with visual storytelling in this game. There is no dialogue whatsoever, and yet it gets the story, what little story there is, across very well. And yeah, it works. My only real gripe is the soundtrack was kind of forgettable, because once in a while I was like focusing on something, I'd hear like music and I'd go, what the hell is that? Oh, right, the game audio. And then it just fade back into static as I'm trying to avoid not getting killed. So, I mean, beyond that, the game looks fine. It sounds pretty good. I'll give it 3 chairs. No real issues with it whatsoever.
Yeah, I very much enjoyed the sound design. From the background music to the always satisfying twang when you make a leap of faith and you hit one of the metal platforms at high speed. Very, very satisfying. I guess that's a good thing because if you've been paying attention to our previous CHAIRQUISITIONs, you'll know that I have little love left for platformers. Ven did bring up an interesting point. Your character, little Elvis, he tends to get lost in the middle of all the crap that's going on in the level, especially in those crap heavy sections of levels where the camera zooms out and your teeny tiny little red pyramid gets lost in all the lasers and showers and red platforms. Yeah, that's a big one. But it's not just the character. In fact, more than once I had to make a leap of faith because I couldn't for the life of me see where the next platforms were. The blue platforms, when they recoil, if you're just Elvis and you're not wearing the blue suit, the blue platforms will recoil, and they're basically the exact dark shade of brown, totally racist, as the rest of the skybox. And I have these two Asus VX 239 HW IPS monitors with like an 80 million to 1 contrast ratio. And even with the contrast checked all the way up, I still had to stop and take stock of what's what so I could see where the hell I was going. And in a game which is very clearly aiming for a faster pace and they outright grade you on your speed, that's a bad thing, but more of that on the fun. For Shiny and Sounds, get 3 chairs.
All right, and that's 3 chairs for Shiny and Sounds. Up next is Control. This one's going to be really quick, isn't it, Ben?
It is, because tight controls are trite. Tight!
They're very trite, Ben.
Very trite, much like us. There's a actual question that we will answer about the Xclone controller, which I use to play on Linux Weekly Daily Wednesdays. Tune into that this upcoming Wednesdays, and I'll give you the answer on that. But they are absolutely tight, and that's what you should be playing it for. I mean, we are talking super meat, cisgendered male tight controls. Absolutely, 100%. And they do absolutely have to be, since Elvis is in the business of taking care of the business. And guess what? With these controls, business is good. Keyboard controls function, but you know what? I was unable to summon enough self-hatred to continue testing them any further than they work. This is brilliant. Hella tight. Absolutely love it. So we give 4 chairs.
Yeah, games like these basically require tight controls, and if it were any other way, I'd give it 1 chair because you can't play the game.
Right?
Exactly. That's really all I have to say about that. 4 chairs. I mean, I'll add on on both the Steam controller and the PlayStation 4 controller. Everything works well. It rumbles on the PlayStation controller. Wasn't expecting that. Someone's using it.
Yeah, no, absolutely no complaints for me here. You push a little button on the Mistress or whatever controller it happens to catch your fancy with, and there's no noticeable delay, like whatsoever. If you cock up and you miss a jump, it's your own damn fault. So for me, I guess 4 chairs.
All right, that's 4 chairs for Control. Let's wrap this up. Ben, did you have fun?
I did. Not a huge fan of well, you know, I like platformers, but what we don't like, embarrassment of riches in 2016 that we can pick and choose. It's like, what platformers do we and do not like in Linux gaming? I don't like something that is intentionally trying to be Nintendo hard or anything like that. And I don't like something that is intentionally trying to be built for, like, speedrunning a game. You got to find that nice little balance. The most recent game we found that did that was, I think we can all agree, lads, is Speedrunners.
Yes.
Not Nintendo hard and not necessarily made for, like, speedrunning, even though the name of the game is Speedrunners. This has a nice mix of that. You start off, it's not too much. I mean, it's going to teach you the mechanics. You're a bit magnetic because you're a bit metal, and that's awesome. We do like a bit of metal. And you learn the ropes. I mean, it kind of guides you through it. It doesn't hold your hand too much.
No.
It doesn't throw a whole lot in your way. I mean, it gives you the basic mechanics. You can go from metal to the other creature, which I'm not going to spoil any of the things, but the other creature, he's rust-proof and all that. But, it's basically your color mechanics. Then you're going to be dealing with, like a bomb-type mechanic. Then the wind, sideways mechanic, upside down mechanic, and jump pads. Challenging. I mean, the first 2 ons I put into this game, very challenging. I mean, fun. I mean, rage quit at a minimum. And not even really rage quit. It was like, all right, then you fucked that up. And it's rare to have a game that makes you go, fuck this game, stupid game, won't leave a bad review. No, I was like, Ven, you fucked that up. That was your own damn fault. Because the controls are so fuck mothering tight on this. So you come back. And it does give you a little bit of ranking. I'll give you a little bit of suggestion. Black Pants, we need like something that shows where Pedro and I are at. Because Jordan doesn't care about stuff like this. Pedro and I, we're all teeth and nails when it comes to competition. So get us a leaderboard and all that business. But then you go to the other world. I mean, it's not explained to you. You're like, oh, the puzzles are kind of the same and all that. They're challenging, but they're fair. They're good. And I was like, then you beat the first boss. And it's like, boss, what? Because you never really fight anything. It's just all puzzles and environment puzzles. Then you get the boss and you beat the boss. And like, yay, look at me, I'm special. And, I was going to let it go from there. Then I was perusing through the achievements. And I was like, then you go to the other world. And I was like, the fuck is the other world? We must know. So then I got to the other world. And that's kind of where I'm at. And I beat the other world. Then I got to war, where the difficulty curve went from, you're really good at this, but you know what? Fuck you, because that's why. And that's basically where it went. Good God. Still, I had a good time. And at this price, I have not finished the game yet, full disclosure, but they do say, what does this clock in at? What, $12.99?
$13. Yeah.
12, 13, what stinky caches? The average runtime for this, 5 or 6 ons, well spent, good achievements, and, Black Pants working that leaderboards. Then maybe we'll get back to you on top of that, and you get 4 chairs. But for right now, I'm going to give it 3. I kind of liked it.
Yeah, I don't really like rage platformers. I'm one of these people who gets...
I don't think this is a rage platformer.
Well, I mean, let me finish. 'Cause I'm getting to that.
All right, Kanye. All right, fuck off.
Cool. I was just wondering. So I mean, I don't really like rage platformers. Super Meat Boy. No Time to Explain. Like I get that people really enjoy the challenge. I'm one of these people who gets like really intensely angry at games and will totally smash my controllers. And there are some sizable dents in this very desk where I've done just that.
I'll back you up on that 100%. He is telling the truth.
But this is actually fun. Like I enjoy playing this game. When you die and when you fuck up, yeah, there's that point where you have to put this down and say, fuck, I gotta sit down. But then you start going over it in your head and you're like, okay, yeah, this is what I did wrong. And then I found myself coming back after about like 5-10 minutes and playing it again. The character designs are fun to look at, and what little story it has unfolds in a manner that's reasonably paced with the gameplay, which is nice because it's not like stuff like Uncharted where, oh, I just really want to watch the cinematics and not actually play the game. And it's a nice little addition once you finish the level and you're like, oh, and then this happened. Neat. They're tough, like Ven mentioned, the puzzles are tough but fair, and that's really what you want for a platformer is. Again, tough but fair. You realize that these are all doable. You just have to get the right combination of button presses. And oftentimes what I would find is I realized what I needed to do. I just needed to find a way to communicate to my hand that this is the exact sequence of things that I need to do. I'd honestly recommend picking it up. It's fun. It'll eat a couple hours of your life, and you'll feel good about yourself once you clear out some puzzles. I will say that the boss mechanic is actually kind of interesting because all the bosses are puzzles, but they're enemies, but enemy puzzles. It's weird. Check it out. 3 chairs.
So, remember, I don't know if you guys watching this or Van and Jordan, if you remember the world switching mechanic from Guacamelee.
Not true.
When you had this,
I don't, Petey. Tell me about it.
Yeah, when you had to switch from the dead world to the living world, and some walls were physical in the undead world, and others were only physical in the living world. That was kind of one of the major mechanics of Guacamelee back in the day, but they didn't really start fucking with you with that specific mechanic until like you were 2 or 3 hours in. In this game, they expect you to have mastered it in less than 3 minutes after acquiring said mechanic. And they grade you at the end of the level. That's just rubbing it in at that point. What's that? You picked up the little currency thing, but you used it on a checkpoint? Bitch. Oh, you finished the level in like 10 seconds. Yeah, that's cute. 57th place. What?
You're not very good at this, are you?
Well then, fuck you too, game. I'm gonna go play something that isn't a freaking 2D platformer in 2016. Now, usually I don't suck at platformers. I don't even inherently hate them. I'm just really tired of the genre. I spent the entirety of the 90s decade playing platformers day in and day out with some Doom and Duke Nukem and Quake and Fallout thrown in between. But On Rusty Rails is a good, really good platformer. Hell, it's awesome if you grade it on the Rage platformer, which manages not even to be completely cynical. You know, the type like the ones those screechy Let's Players on YouTube often feature. But it's... Maybe it's just me, but I'm really, really burnt out on platformers at this point. So I can't really give it 3 chairs like Van and Jordan did, but 2 is fair.
So that averages out to 2 chairs for fun, which means that Ruby on Rails gets 3 chairs total. So that's pretty good. Final thoughts?
Well, I mean, if we're going to put it like this, I mean, I got to say this to the beautiful friends of mine in Deutschland at Black Pants Studio. If you're going to do a character named Elvis and he doesn't eat peanut butter and jelly, well, just fried peanut butter sandwiches, he at least needs to have mummies and a black JFK with part of his brain organ replaced with a bag of sand.
Yeah, if you aren't as decidedly over platformers as I am, if this is a genre you very much enjoy playing.
When was the last time we had such a tight platformer on Linux?
Super Meat Boy, probably.
Speedrunners?
Yeah. Speedrunners too, yes. But yeah, if you're not completely burnt out on platformers, this is the game you want. But if you're like me and you're an asshole and you're completely done with platformers at this point, it's not going to change your mind either.
I disagree because I don't like Rage platformers, and I liked.
It's not a Rage platformer
on Ruby on Rails.
This is well done. I mean,
okay, fine. I will say that it has at least the aesthetic mechanics of a Rage platformer, despite the fact that the levels are not ridiculously hard and require ultra pixel perfect precision
and take less than a minute apiece to complete. I mean, this is a complete disconnect from something like Tiny and Big, which was a brilliant mechanic. You know, it's like you just cut and slice and dice everything in the damn world. Complete. It was like, oh, we just made this new game, and I was expecting something Tiny and Big like no, we're gonna fuck mothering platform. And it's like, all right, not only did you do that well, you just made a platformer interesting for me. I'm sorry, Jordan.
You nailed it.
All right, well, there you have it. If that speaks to you, go check out On Rusty Trails. If not, go fuck yourselves. Coming up next, Hate Mail, 200 episode edition.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if you're not watching us live, you've missed a very interesting discussion regarding the implications of crowdsourcing or crowdfunding, whatever you want to call it. But hey, it's the Hate Mail, my personal favorite time of the show. And if you want to get in touch with us, just go on over to LinuxGameCast.com, fill out the contact form. It's easy enough. Just pick if you want to, send some hate mail to Linux Gamecast Weekly or some just regular old feedback to Linux Weekly Daily Wednesdays. It's easy enough. Unless, of course, you're trying to promote a game, which, again, let's say if you have a crowdfunding campaign going on, like your Kickstarters and your Indiegogos and whatnot.
Hey, man, somebody did us a solid. A Portuguese developer.
They did. Last week or 2 weeks ago, Tiwatun actually sent us some keys for Greedy Guns. And they currently have a Kickstarter going on, so you should totally check their thing out. And if you like sort of Metal Sluggy type Metroidvania games, you probably want to back that, just saying. But yeah, actually this week we do have 2 little teeny tiny bits of some hate mail. Oh, well, not so tiny, that one. Huh.
Well, the first one's from Gingy, who's in chat room right now. Is Random Asky. And she says, wait, you were supposed to get games on Linux when you boot up the Linux client of Steam? That's never been the case for me. The top bit was always Linux stuff only, and still is as typing this, but if you scroll, it starts showing stuff exclusively for Windows or Windows and Mac for some pants on head reason. This is also on the Nexus mods. A good chunk of them still work with the manual install, and I know this is far from ideal, but the Windows client is supposed to work online, but it didn't for her. So make of that what you will. I mean, yeah, at least going into the Steam client, I'd always just look for Linux games from, clicking on games and SteamOS Linux. But it is kind of dumb that because they clearly know what operating system you're on.
Right.
Why not just show you games available on your platform?
Well, it's kind of easy because they assume most people are Linux experts, aka Arch users, so they dual boot.
Well, no, but they say it on the tin, man. You're supposed to be using Ubuntu with Steam because all the other distributions won't work. Especially Ubuntu.
This Random Asky's message actually addressed 2 different issues that we talked about last week, which was the Steam client, the release candidate client version, right. The beta release candidate, whatever you want to call it, which was then actually merged into the stable client. Before, if you went on to the storefront, you only got Linux games, be it on the top scrolly thing, or if you went down to the bottom, you actually only had Linux games all the way down. And if you went down to the little table that had the new releases, you also only got Linux games, or games that supported Linux, as the case may be. Now you get all games, and that's not very good. And the Nexus mod thing, I had a very similar experience because it's supposed to work on Wine, but it really doesn't because that thing is .NET based. And it's...
know why you would use a mod installer under Linux. If you're using Linux, clearly you understand the mechanics behind copy paste.
I don't know, man. I mean, that's what I didn't even get last week was. It's like, oh my god, it does display. You go to games, then you go to Linux, then you sort by release date. That's what you do first thing in the morning as a Linux gaming podcaster.
Yeah, but
I agree with the notion that when you boot up the Steam client on your platform, you should get games that are available on your platform. It's one of those stupid little things that makes sense, right? Right?
It actually used to work like that because if you went down and you saw the new releases, you got Linux games. That was the point of it. But
Pedro,
now
you're just entitled, man.
Totally, completely.
Well, he is. Did you read the show notes from last week? I mean, seriously.
Oh, yeah.
but up next, this
E3
is from,
Quake, Rule Spider. He writes, something I was rapping about because I genuinely did say on the Twitterverse, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, during E3, and they're like, hey, we have a new Quake, and I was like, on top of the new Doom, now we have a new Quake that will never be native on Linux. And he did retort. I think that even with video evidence, Teenager Vin would not believe you if you told him no id titles. But, Street Fighter would be coming. I know you said it yourself, but I think it's worth repeating out loud again and again, and maybe somebody will finally get the message. Now, I get what you're trying to say, Brad. I absolutely do, because I would never win that conversation with myself even a decade ago, much less Let's see, how many years ago? It was like 16 years ago, 2000, right?
Yeah.
Ballpark?
Yeah, with 2016 minus 20,000.
Yes.
Yes.
Equals 7 cucumber. Brilliant.
And Rohit in Shet Realm.
I was like, by the way, you're playing Quake 3 Arena, the Linux beta. It's absolutely out, and you can play it with the Windows players and all that, and you're having fun with that. And you got that new cable modem, and it's brilliant. And
you're getting that new cable modem. But,
it was awesome back in the day.
Well, I mean,
but,
that's Street Fighter.
Here's
man.
the conversation you're going to have is, it's like, check this out. 16 years from now, Quake, open source and all that. Yeah, it's going to be gone away. But there'll be a new Street Fighter. Pedro?
Oh, well,
Yeah.
that's Street Fighter, man. It's on Linux now. Can you play it? Sure, you can.
That's the thing. That's what I was going to bring up, because Rohit in Chat Realm actually brought up that very same thing. Is Street Fighter V coming? Capcom have said yes, it is in fact coming to SteamOS.
And Valve has said yes, it's also coming with Vulkan on top of it.
Yeah, so we're waiting on Valve time for that. Keep your pennies on, I guess. I don't know.
Oh shit! I gotta get my pants on. Excuse me.
And on that bombshell, for the 200th time, let's cue the music, because you can always find us around 9:30 Eastern time. Just type in time, Athens, Georgia. When is 9:30? And YOLO swag hashtag Dorito, and you will find us. I'm at Vinstone on the Twitter nets, plus Vinstone on the G pluses. If you want to scream in my direction, I will do everything in my power to get back to you. And if I don't, reply to me again, because I probably just missed it.
I'm Jordan Spung. You can find me damnedly trying to keep my pants off at the Burning Fool on Twitter, plus Jordan Spung on the Google Plus.
And I am Pedro Mateos, desperately trying for Jordan to keep his pants on. You can always find me at Unaccounted4 on Twitter, or plus Pedro Mateos on Google Plus.
And just remember, Jordan will attest to this mostly. If we ever get really big, giggity, maybe like 12 people will listen to our show. All right.
And you know what? We were just a little above the mark, because 13 people actually watch our show. It's kind of brilliant.
And then you went and picked up one of the people that actually listened to your show, and you brought him on.
Yeah, Strider. That was kind of a mistake, wasn't it?
Kind of neat.
Yeah.
Could have been worse. I mean, we could have.
Oh, 200 episodes.
Tiny Ben!
I don't know. You could have brought on Matt Hartley or something.
5 dudes.